Is not necessarily friendly to having the greatest amount of prep time. So, again, scuffed, but here we are to talk about BOL Masters, our top 1% of all league players. Even though we're going to be judging and talking about good or bad, just playing in Masters alone is an amazing achievement, and I think that everybody who has achieved that rank should be proud of themselves. I certainly am, because I'm envious of being a fucking gold shitter. So, with that, we have some wonderful information here. Every week, I'm going to be putting out a prediction form so you, the Masters community, can let your voice be heard. Let us know what you think is going to be happening. Who is good? Who is bad? Who is great? Who is not? And we have seen some things and some not so great things. But for the most part, one thing can be true. All of you agree right now, 36% of you agree that DAZG Sticks is going to win the entire split. And then there's a tie in terms of seconds for Dorado Gaming Beta and Dorado Gaming Gamma. So I'm guessing that a lot of people from the Dorado Gaming camp filled out the form. But we have with us today, we have Llama and Cafe. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves to the class?
Hey, I'm Llama. I'm the current support for Nameless Tritium. We had a bye week 1, and then we only played one game in week 2. So we're a new org joining BOL and kind of some new players. Playing in Masters here, but I've been involved in the scene for a while. I also do coaching myself as well as freelance play-by-play and color commentary, mainly for League of Legends. So love playing the game, love talking about the game. I'm excited to be part of BOL this season.
You have a very pleasant voice, so I appreciate. I understand. I understand the casting dreams. Cafe, how about you?
I'm Cafe right now. I changed my name to King Coney to match all my teammates, but I usually go by Cafe Chocolata. I'm the support / ADC for Omega Akuma pairing knives. I kind of swap back and forth with my lane mate Lonery. Kind of depends on who we play against, and I've been around for a while. I played the last, I think, 2 or 3 splits of BOL Master / Diamond for Dorado Gaming prior to leaving that org. So I'm excited to talk about the tournament.
Of all the names in all of the leagues, Omega Akuma pairing knives is one of my absolute favorites, I do have to say.
We had to come up with it on the spot because our other name got shot down by Ivar, so... For good reason, I'll say.
I understand. I could understand things. So right now we have on screen our standings for 2 weeks. Any surprises? Any comments y'all have on this? Any thoughts? Because we aren't going so far into your predictions yet. That's going to be for week 3, but we don't have anything really for week 2. I don't really see any, at least as far as the prediction form from the community, anything terribly exciting or weird. I think the closest matchup that we had predicted was about 50-50 between Bing Chillers and Lane 0, which, judging by our standings, Lane 0 came out on top. Got big shout out to Death Cards. I really like your logo.
And it's hard to tell in 2 weeks. Yeah, go ahead, Cafe.
Yeah, nothing too terribly surprising for me. I mean, looking at the divisions, like when they were drawn, I thought that one group was definitely better than the other. Like, I think Demacia has definitely got better teams in it on the whole. Like, there's some pretty... Not to, I don't want to be that guy, but there's some pretty bad teams, I guess, in Noxus. I think there's only, 1 or 2 good ones.
It's funny how that works, because BOL is... something I really enjoy about BOL is how the groups are always random, and it is done so, openly, that it is pure randomness. And it often ends up with this kind of feeling that one group is like the group of death and one group is like the group of life. And it often happens that one group dominates the other in playoffs. But sometimes what ends up happening is that supposed like group of life, the easy group, ends up being the one that dominates.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see throughout the split.
And I know that the other, like, Noxus would have looked a lot better to me had the other. So originally it was Dorado Gaming G or whatever, the XI. It's a team with Halls on it in AML that was supposed to be in this tournament, but they ended up getting replaced by Gamma, who is, I mean, there's no other way around it. They are just a worse team. So I think maybe that's kind of like coloring my perspective of it. But like overall, the teams, like I've only played 1 week because the first week we had our other AD carry play, and that was against Khan. I played against Dorado Gaming Beta, and I don't know, they kind of just like rolled over and died. So I'm not quite sure the other group's going.
Sometimes that happens. Sometimes that definitely happens.
And being part of the free group, I do like being able to have free wins. I don't think I can argue by saying Noxus, I do think, looks a little bit easier. And granted, this is coming from a guy sitting 5th in the standings right now. But, like I was mentioning, we've only actually played 1 game, even though it shows 0-2, due to an E-sub and having someone having to completely reinstall League. But yeah, I definitely can agree, though, that like knowing some of these teams, looking at some of these players, I mean, I would say that I do think Noxus like will give us some wins early on. And granted, we've also been scrimming against some of the Demacia teams, and they do seem like strong competitors, so it definitely gives us motivation. And I do think being part of an easier group, as you're saying, Leopard moving into like playoffs and stuff, sometimes maybe the freer group doesn't prepare quite as hard, or if you feel like you're kind of stomping over. And I kind of expect Nameless, as we get rolling as a team too, to start moving up the standings pretty easily too.
One thing I know from experience too is that when you're in the weaker group, you have nothing to lose, right? So that there's often you play freer and you play more like you play better League of Legends because you don't have that pressure on you the way that like a favorite might, right? Like the one thing in my time in the competitive scene, mainly focused more on the lower elos, is that the 2 most common seeds that win the league are 1st and 4th. The teams that, like, first of all, were dominating the entire regular season, but the second one are the teams that had a really rough start to things and got their steam going part of the way through and are able to ride that momentum through playoffs. So those are the just small observations that I've had over the years. Moving into next week, there's going to be a form that is going to go out in official content tomorrow. Estelle was going to be pinging BOL Masters and putting that out if you want to participate in this, and that we're going to be using that information going forward. It's going to be interesting to see how different teams are going to be favored by the community, and any particular upsets that go can't speak. Any particular upsets that go catch the community by surprise. So, with that, we have quite a few matches to next week. We have, starting off with Demacia, we have Goofy Goobers versus Omega Akuma Pairing Knives.
I mean, Cafe, I don't think you need to say it, but it's going to be a 2-0, right?
Hopefully. So I've a lot of experience playing against Goofy Goobers. 2 of those players play for the org that I own, which is Akuma Esports. It would be Random Capitals, and then the top laner, whatever his summoner name is nowadays, should be Super Yacht.
Super Yacht.
Those guys play for one of our teams in another league, so I have a lot of experience with playing with them and playing against them. So I'm not gonna say it's gonna be a 2-0, but at the same time, like I do have 3 other King Coneys on my team, so it's probably gonna be a 2-0.
If there's something that I know, vibes often win games, so I can understand that.
And those are also good players, like that you called out as well. Like they've been playing the scene for a while, like back from like Plat League as well. Both Random Capital, Super Yacht. I know Random Capitals used to roll in like Plat League, so he's definitely a very competent mid laner for sure.
That's something I always like to see when people move up the leagues from Plat, Dive in, and so on. Like that's always something that I love to see. Great to see. Great to hear that. So next we have Con Esports versus ID Eclipse.
Is this actually the squad ID Eclipse? Because I don't see them on the master sheet. I thought they changed.
So this is one of those fun things where stuff gets crazy with schedules. So I'm not 100%. At least on the website, it is listed as ID Eclipse.
Yeah, it's technically Krabs Radiant. I think they
Oh,
had
gotcha.
like
Got
a
it. They name
rebrand.
changed. They name
Yeah.
changed, and the website didn't update. That's
Yeah.
what's fun about having multiple sources of conflicting information.
But it is the same roster, so
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. Eddie Boy Drex. Okay.
yeah, exactly. I mean, this should be a Con 2-0, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's what I had too. That was kind of my prediction. I think it's gonna be the case. Like, yeah,
It might be a
I'm
speed
with
run.
it.
I mean, how fast are we talking? Do you think?
So it's my opinion that ID Eclipse / Krabs Radiant is probably the worst team in Demacia. It's either them or the Fraud team, just because I don't know them.
Okay, that's fair.
So I imagine it'll be like I can't imagine it'll be very close. I think Con's not bad, despite my public opinion of Con Esports isn't org.
It does feel like they have some weird picks though, like in their champ pools. Like their junglers most played as Skarner and like Midmaster, like some weird kind of picks that they have. But yeah, they've definitely found success and they are a really strong team.
To hear when things like that work, right? Like Skarner is one of my favorite picks. I played him when I was at Iron Jungler. Might have been why I was Iron. So next we have the Fraud team and DZG Sticks. From the community perspective, this is a very heavy DZG Sticks favored matchup.
I think this is the closest of the three, though. I think like this is going to be pretty close. I know DZG is strong, but their late games have not looked super good. Even in scrims, we've also saw it in week 1 when we had a bye week. We watched how they played, and so yeah, I mean they're definitely a solid team, but I wouldn't be surprised if it goes to 3.
Yeah, I mean DCG is pretty much guaranteed to drop a game in every series, just because it's kind of the nature of the players they have on the team. To be honest, they don't take every game as seriously as maybe they should, but I think it's good for the vibes. So I think it'll be 2-1 at the very least for DCG.
I've definitely run into teams like that, whether it's game 1 or game 2, depending on the team, where they it's very hard to beat them in a best of 3 series, but it's not the hardest thing to beat them in an individual game, where they take that loss, they figure out what's going on, and they just tighten up and become like a different team.
Yeah, it's definitely their late game though. That's as you're saying. Sometimes they're playing for vibes, which does make it fun, but sometimes they throw a little too hard.
And Dorado Gaming Beta has a bye this week. Please tune in to BOL and watch the stream for whoever's on it this week. Check who that is. Now that I'm sitting here, that's going to be Con and Crab on stream this week.
Yeah, I think I'll be a banger.
And so now we're in Noxus. We have Dorado Gaming Gamma versus Death Cards.
Yeah, this is a tough one, to be honest. I don't really know too much about Death Cards. I know like the individual players, but I've never actually seen them play like as a 5-man. I would say that like individually, just looking at it, they're probably better in every role. So I probably have Death Cards winning it, but I just don't know enough about them to really make that assessment.
Yeah, and I think Dorado does have some like long-term vets like on their squad. Hazem, Goaty, Carino, like these are guys that have been playing on Dorado for like their entire careers, it feels like. So yeah, I mean definitely a team that does know how to play together at least, and maybe that is an advantage, as you're saying, maybe the individual skill goes to Death Cards, but Dorado Gaming Gamma might have at least some synergy that might be missing.
Mm-hmm.
So we have wow, I have way too many tabs open. That's fun. There we go. Nameless Tritium versus Leash the Dog.
Well, I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and insult
Llama. You're welcome to.
Only in chat. Only in chat.
I think the only way Nameless should lose this is if once again they have to reinstall League of Legends, or if someone's not able to show up because like a meteor fell on their house.
I mean, honestly, that's kind of why we lost Series 1, I think. When we were in a 25-minute pause and then, have to pull in a ringer for Game 2 down 0-1. Yeah, no, I think you're right that, like, unless something catastrophic happens, I think we should take that series pretty handily. But I think it is also like it's going to be a good test for us as a team. This is the first season the 5 of us have played together. I never knew any of these guys until we actually started playing this season. So there's definitely still some synergy to work out. I think we definitely have the hands for it. But even with some of my boomer hands, but it's okay. We got a Zoomer jungler on our team, so he'll be able to outplay.
Zoomers can do magic.
Oh yeah.
I've been in those shoes where fun thing. If you DC and Riot has a micro patch out and your client updates, you can't get back into the game.
Ooh.
If you didn't know that one, Riot can get really weird with some of the disconnects and stuff with customs.
Yeah, it's pretty unfortunate.
Then lastly, I think we have Lane Zero Maelstrom versus USAE Academy.
Yeah, I mean, this should just be a pretty straightforward Lane Zero win. I've been playing competitively since 2018, and I can count on one hand how many times I've seen a U.S. Army team win a game in a tournament. So I don't know, I don't know what it is. Maybe their focus is on something else. Like, this is probably just for fun.
It probably is. I've seen teams from teams from colleges and different things like that come around. But
I legit have not seen a U.S. Army esports team make a playoffs in any league I've ever played in.
I mean, they're always like in the league though, right? Like,
yes,
I gotta give credit to USAE Academy for always fielding a team. But I'm with you with that. The defense budget, I don't think extends to League of Legends rosters.
Hopefully they keep doing it, because that's why I have a job. So, lastly, I think Bing Chillers has a bye. So, any other thoughts? So, Cafe, who wins the split right now?
I mean,
not your team. I'm gonna say
anyone but me.
Anybody but you. Who wins?
Anyone but me. I'd probably have to put money on either Death Cards or maybe DCG, just because I know the players on DCG are really good. I know them all personally, except for the jungler. I don't know who the hell that guy is, but and then Death Cards, like, everyone is just like a good player that I've seen around. Like, specifically their jungler, Lexus is really, really good. So also, I just quickly want to say to friggin' Lonery, my AD carry or / support, who's talking about me in Twitch chat. This is the most impact I've had all season. I'm about to have some more impact on Monday, buddy.
That's wild.
Running that shit down.
The same question to you. You cannot pick Nameless Tritium. Who wins the split?
Oh man, well, I gotta give some credit to where Cafe Squad is at this point, sitting top of the standings in Demacia. But I mean, I appreciate recognizing too that there are some other teams there. I mean, until you guys drop a game or drop a series, it'll be interesting to see here if y'all continue to climb. But I definitely think we've scrimmed against DZG Sticks. Definitely also a very, very competent team. Death Cards I'm a little bit less certain on. Even playing against them, I didn't feel like it was impossible. It was just more tilt being down 0-1. So I'm definitely looking at those teams. Don't know much about Lane Zero Maelstrom, and I just want to see USAE make a playoffs. I'm with Cafe on that. I think this squad should try to make it a postseason.
I'm not asking for much. The bar's not very high for them.
No, is it top 6?
I think it's top 4.
Oh, okay. Maybe it's a little bit higher then.
Even still, come on. I just want to see it happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can understand the attachment to Lonery there, because honestly, replacing players and creating drama just made me laugh. So, guys, this has been a wonderful time. Hopefully, as time goes on, we're able to talk more about Masters. I'm sorry that I'm not the most prepared this week. It has been an absolute pleasure having you both on today. And in just a few moments, we'll be back with BOL Diamond.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
You never stop calling me crazy, but you the one that's fucking crazy. And it's time for me to run. Yeah, it's time for me to go. I will stick around for you.
Hello again. We were only gone for a few moments. I hope you didn't miss me too much. I am Leper Koopa, your host of Otter Talk, and with me I have Sin, and I can't say your name.
Wasal.
Wasal?
Yeah.
Okay, I again, bad with names. I'm sorry.
It's all good.
We are here for BOL Diamond. I am your dramatically unprepared host due to interstate traffic. So here I am to make a fool out of myself and let the experts do the talking. So Diamond is a little funky compared to some of our other leagues. We've had a lot of reschedules, college students on break, different situations going on, and depending on the person that asks, the standings might not be updated. So, with that being said, Sin, Huasal, are there any surprises, any comments that you have about how the league has gone down so far?
Just looking at the graphic, I am a little surprised that we haven't seen another 2-0. I see a lot of 2-1s and 1-2s, which makes me think that the league is decently competitive, which is exciting. I think it would be a lot less interesting if there was one team that was like leagues better than everybody else.
Oh, it's interesting you bring that up. So last week I put out a prediction form, and one of the questions on the prediction form was who wins the split. And of course, early on, it's a bit of a popularity contest, and out of 10 responses, who do you think got 50% of the votes?
I would guess
either Akuma or TTM.
Yeah, I would guess Akuma.
It is Akuma. Akuma got that, and the only other team to get more than one vote was actually WLS Mishmash.
Mm-hmm.
But at this point, it's a bit of a popularity contest. So we'll see how this evolves as time goes on. This is going to be something that we're going to be putting out every week. And for the most part, everything seems to have gone down the way that people predicted. People predicted Con Esports winning over WLS winning. Like, for the most part, things have gone down the way that the community has predicted. Which isn't bad. Diamond is a chill league, it seems. People are very, very, very reasonable and very good at the game in the grand scheme of things. So we have next week. This is going to be kind of weird because half the games are unplayed. So next week we're going to talk about week 3 and leave the unplayed week 2 games behind us. Is that cool?
All right.
Sounds good, yeah.
Okay. So please share any comments, thoughts, concerns. I mean, if you have some snide remarks, say them tastefully. That you are being recorded. So first up for this week, we have Con Esports versus Elysium Dawn.
I haven't played against Con Esports at all, but we did scrim Elysium. I scrimmed Elysium for one game, but my team scrimmed Elysium for 2 games. I had some in real life stuff that I had to attend to.
Gotcha.
But from the time that I played against Elysium, I thought that they were a pretty strong team all around, and their team fights, especially in Rivers in the mid game, were really strong. I don't know too much about Con, but they seem like they've been performing pretty well according to the stats that I see. So, biased to the people that I've played against, in my opinion, I think Elysium's going to win 2-1. But I think the games can go either way.
If you are out there in the Diamond community, there's going to be a form released tomorrow, so you can vote on who wins this matchup. Sin, do you have any thoughts here? Who wins between Con and Elysium Dawn?
Similar view as Alex has here. I definitely think Elysium has I know firsthand they have a really strong team fight, and if you make mistakes, they definitely are able to capitalize on it. So I think I would also lean towards them in a 2-1 decision. But I definitely think Con could win from what I've seen and what I've heard. They definitely seem pretty solid. I think that's a matchup that I would want to keep an eye on. I think that could, because I think it's going to be pretty competitive, and I think there's a lot that could be learned as for scouting the other teams. I think that's going to be a important matchup.
It's unfortunate then that it's not on stream. On stream this week we have WLLS versus TTM.
Well, we can at least look at the stats.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So I'm now very confused because our streamed match is different than our match on the schedule. So we have next TTM versus the P team.
No disrespect to the P team or anything. I think it's gonna be 2-0 for TTM.
Any particular reason why?
P team we two of them. And also I think in my opinion, while they do have a lot of potential, they currently haven't been performing the greatest. Their early game has been really weak in my opinion, and a lot of teams capitalize on their mistakes in the mid game to further extend their leads that they already have in the early game. And so by the time that they reach 20-25 minutes into the game, Team P hasn't really been able to play.
That's perfectly fair. They do have a good logo though.
They do have a beautiful logo.
They do
I love the logo personally. I think it's super aesthetic and cute. Yeah.
It might be my favorite logo in Diamond.
Valid opinion. It's definitely up there in my top 2.
Now I have to ask who the other one is.
Oh, obviously us. Brad Bolster.
Brad Bolster.
Can't hate on my own team's logo. Yeah, represent.
That's fair. That's fair. You absolutely can hate on your own team's logo. Let me tell you. So do you have any additional thoughts on TTM versus P?
Yeah, just based off my experience against Team P, something about the early game is definitely not clicking. I don't know what it is in particular. In the games we played, the first game, we had a strong early game, but we did make some mistakes. And once P started to get the ball rolling, they definitely began to come back into the game. So I really think the weakness is in the early game, but the problem is that was a one-time thing, and most of these teams I don't think are going to let them back into the game. But I think if they could figure out whatever the issue is in that early game and they could bring it all together, then they could be serious contenders. But as it is, I'm going to have to go with TTM.
Completely reasonable statement. Next we have, this is actually the streamed game because I can read, I promise. We have Art of War Esports versus WLLS Fishmesh Edition. That's a bit of a tongue twister. I'm gonna tell you.
Yeah,
sounds like it.
Yeah, hard name to read. I think this one's also another close one, similar to Con versus Elysium. Personally, after the showing that WLS had on stream for week 2 against TTM, I'm leaning towards them. I think their jungle mid synergy, I think especially, is really good, and they have a really reliable late game AD carry in the form of Solbert. As I've seen in games 1 and 3 though, sometimes they can kind of get screwed over in the early game pretty hard, which can lead to a really weak mid game. And if they somehow last until the late game, by then sometimes the enemy has a little bit too much of a lead to where it doesn't matter and they kind of lose.
Makes perfect sense to me. Perfect sense. And lastly, we have your team, Brad Bolster Gaming versus Akuma Sabers.
No, you can go first.
Yeah, sure. Okay,
man,
so
people left and right. I'm a terrible host.
it's all right. I mean, I gotta say that we're gonna win it, but I definitely don't think it's gonna be an easy series. Akuma's really good. I've only heard good things about them from the screenshots I've seen. They definitely seem to be performing as expected. I'm personally going to give it to us in a tight 2-1, but if we were to lose this, I don't think this is a matchup we'd be terribly torn up about. But I do think it's going to be very good for us to identify where the issues are in our team. Akuma's definitely going to test us, and I'm excited for that match.
Yeah, similar thoughts on my end. Akuma has really notable players. From what I've seen, Toomey is a absolute weak side king. I think he plays really, really well. And he definitely doesn't fall behind when he's strong sided either. So I also think it'll be a tight 2-1. I have faith in my team and me, I guess, because I'm on the team. So in us winning, but I'm pretty excited for the match.
It's very hard not to think that your team is going to win and think that you're going to shit the bed at the same time.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a mental gymnastics there. But
Definitely.
overall, Diamond is a really chill place. I'm gonna be honest. Masters had a lot more teams and a lot more going on. So, especially given that some teams have only played one game at this point, it could be a bit hard for Diamond. But at this point, knowing very, very little, Sin, if you can't pick yourself,
Yeah.
who wins the entire split?
As I was talking about earlier, I don't know a ton about the other teams, but from the little I do know and what I've seen, Akuma looks really strong. And I'm probably gonna have to go with them. If not us, then I think they are probably the scariest team in this league, at least in my opinion.
I think that is a completely fair statement. And this is the other thing. It's week 2. Anything you say can change in a heartbeat. So who knows what's going to happen, you know?
For sure. Definitely in the dark here, but
Absolutely. I've been there. You know more than I do. You at least know a couple teams. I didn't even know who Solbert was. I just know that I'm supposed to flame him.
Yeah.
Wassel, and the same question to you.
I think for me, aside from us, obviously, it's probably between Akuma and TTM. In my opinion, from what I've seen and from the stats, I think Akuma is a little bit more tight on their gameplay all around than TTM is. But TTM has also only played one series, which is the Week 2 series. They still have not played their Week 1 series yet, so I have less data to base that off of than I do for Akuma, obviously. So I think once they play that Week 1 game, then I think my opinion is definitely bound to change, possibly. But currently I have Akuma as the team that's going to win as well.
I think that is completely reasonable. And we'll find out this week how things go when Brad Bolster Gaming takes on Akuma Sabres. Before we head off, is there any thoughts that you have? Any people you want to thank? Any people you want to flame?
I don't know. I'm gonna be real. We've only played against one team, so we kind of have no enemies right now. I think we might make more enemies in the future. Fingers crossed that it's not too heated, I guess. But not in particular, no.
yeah,
Okay.
I'd like to flame our ADC onset.
Okay.
I'm a little worried. I'm a little worried about this Akuma set. I can't lie. No, but in all seriousness, like Hwasel was saying, don't really have any enemies. Perhaps after this set with Akuma, we might make some. But everyone I've talked to so far in the server and in the league seems really chill. So I don't have any bad words to say about anybody.
That is absolutely wonderful, and I'm glad that we're being so wholesome. Diamond and Masters seem to be the very, very wholesome camaraderie, everybody's good and everybody's friendly kind of places. As we get lower, I'm sure that's going to change. So, thank you guys so much for being on this week for BOL Diamond. That's going to take us out here, and we will be back in a bit with Emerald.
Thank you for having us.
Yep.
Welcome back, everyone. It is me. I hope you're not sick of me yet, because we've got 3 more leagues to go. We're starting now with Emerald League, everybody's favorite, the most popular. If only we had a couple more teams, we might have even had 24 rather than just the 16. So we have with me here today, we have Chris and Ishan. Why don't you introduce yourselves?
Hello, I'm Chris. I'm Conduit GG's younger and notorious for the Lillian Baron steal that happened on stream the other day.
But you told me not
said you
to
didn't
bring
want to
that
know
up.
about
I
it.
had to
You
bring it
keep
up. I
bringing
had
it
to
up.
bring it. I had to bring it up, dude. I had to bring it up.
No.
It had to happen. It had to
Okay.
happen.
Okay.
It had to happen. Don't worry about it. It's
I
fine.
will not. It didn't happen in my game, so I don't have to.
I'm Ishan. I'm Omega Whooper's mid laner. I've been Whooper's mid laner for like 2 years now.
Man, you're loyal. I'm just bouncing between teams. It's nuts.
Yeah, well, whenever people leave the team, I just build a new one around me.
Honestly,
fair.
sometimes that's the only way to get around to people you like.
Yep.
So I've been there for about 2 years myself.
I don't like Ishan. I hate this guy.
That must have been why you left the team.
Yep, that's exactly why I left.
My bad.
So we have here in front of us Piltover and Zon, our standings from week 2. I think we've got everybody. Diamond has a lot of replays that need to happen. Earlier in this week, we sent out a predictions form for the community to be able to speak their thoughts, see who they think is strong, say who they think is going to win each game, and so on. Who do you guys think is the most likely to win this split according to 23 people from the BOL Emerald community?
23 people.
BOL
That's it.
Emerald
Damn.
community.
That's all that filled out the form.
Damn.
We're going to post it again tomorrow, so please fill it out so we have more data and it's not swung by some one random person, like a person in gold that said, "Why the fuck do you need this?" And just yeah.
Well, I could say us, but that makes it seem like I have too big of an ego, so I'll say Dorado.
You say Dorado Gaming Kappa, correct?
Yeah.
So they are tied for second according to the form with 17.4% of the vote.
Oh.
I think if you're looking at it realistically, you could probably say anybody from Zon. I don't really think Piltover is that strong, but that's just my opinion.
That's
I wouldn't
fair.
say anyone from Zon.
We'll talk about who you guys think is actually going to win a bit later, but at least as far as the form goes, most of the people felt that Omega Whooper was going to win.
Oh, well, I guess I should let
It
the ego take
might
over.
just be that more members of Omega Whooper filled out the form.
That could be it. I don't know if anyone else did, but I know I did.
Nice, you're egoing yourself in a form that nobody can see. Nice job, man.
I didn't vote for it.
It's definitely one of those things that I've noticed in some of the other leagues is like week 1, everybody voted for themselves, but for some of the other leagues, like in week 2, some teams just completely vanished from the forms. So
Yeah,
we'll see
because
how-
they lose a game, they mental boom, and they can't recover. It's really sad.
it's really sad when that happens, especially
It's-
when they're good players, you know.
It's really sad.
The classic.
So the other notable name here, for in terms of votes, was Conduit GG, also tied with Dorado Gaming Kappa. So Omega Whooper had 5 votes, the other 2 had 4, and that basically makes up half the people that filled out the form.
Yeah, that's crazy, actually. Looking at the standings now, kind of crazy.
Is it?
I mean, no. I mean,
It's not that crazy.
if you're looking at teams rank wise, I mean, it's not that crazy. It's kind of I guess you could expect it, but
And at the end of the day, it's only been 2 weeks.
it's only been 2 weeks. You never know what's gonna happen. League of Legends, League
A
of
lot of
Legends.
things can change,
Yeah.
especially in this, and when you're dealing with people's mental booms as well.
Oh
I
yeah,
think the
For
only
sure.
kind of the result just skimming through here that has happened that was really kind of unexpected was a lot of people said that DCG Arcadia was going to beat Blue Pearl Spire, and that seems to be the only kind of upset, at least according to the forms from
I
last
think,
week.
I mean,
I-
again, it's just you don't know the league. You're just looking at rankings, so I guess it's kind of fair. But I mean, upsets happen, so it could be
Yeah.
one lucky day. I mean, I don't know. You
I
never know.
definitely didn't expect DCG Arcadia to be O2 right now. Because
Yeah, I expected
I've laned against Andicus before, and he ran me, but that was also like 3 years ago.
People can
So
fall
it doesn't
off,
really
and
have any
people
relevance,
can-
but that's all I know.
Okay. I mean,
DCG did look like top 4 in their
And yeah, they're looking at their OP, like they do
Yeah,
look like they should
they
be.
legitimately just look like top 4 in their group,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
they
just-
are bottom 4 right now. But again, it's only week 2, so
Only
you
week
don't
2.
know.
and a lot of things can change. So speaking of that, we're about to go into week 3. We got week 2 done. So we're going to do a little bit of predicting here ourselves. If you want to join in on the fun, the prediction form for Emerald is going to drop tomorrow. Keep an eye on the official content channel. Please, let's try to have more than 23 responses in a 16-team league.
That's a little wild.
A little bit.
I mean, what's funny is so we just did Masters and Diamond, right? And so like 23 responses is about double what Masters and Diamond each had. So it's like,
Oh,
yeah, they both had about
I-
10 responses. So
I don't think they care enough, to be fair.
no,
I mean,
just
our
given
league
the
has more
activity in
teams and barely had more.
well, given the activity in the Discord, Emerald, Plat, and Gold care way more than Diamond and Masters.
It's
So-
also, I mean, when people
on.
are ranking up from Plat, so it's like populating Emerald, and people are friends in Plat, and they banter a lot, so it's kind of like, yeah, why not?
It makes sense to me.
hmm
So we have first up, at least for this, we're going to start with Piltover, and we're just going to go down the schedule. We have Lotus Crypt versus the I-In team.
hmm
Who do we think wins? Let's start with Chris.
I'm not even gonna cap. I don't remember what I put when I sent it to you.
But if you have it in our DMs, you
I probably do.
said
I don't remember what I said. Let me see.
Lotus Crypt wins this 2-1.
I
You
didn't say
agree
that.
with your take from
I don't agree with that. Looking
You
at it
don't agree?
now, I don't agree
Okay.
with it.
Okay.
I don't.
Why do you say that?
Standings, mainly.
That's fair.
But-
That's completely reasonable.
Who's Lotus Crypt lost to, actually?
That I don't have ready access
I'll
to.
pull it up. Hold on. Well, schedules. Emerald.
Bloom and Clown.
Yeah, I mean, they lost to good teams, so I mean, it's not that bad. But
Strength of schedule definitely plays a thing in a lot of perceptions at this point in the season.
yeah,
So, Ishan, do you agree with that? That Lotus Crypt is going to win against the Iron Team, or are they going to lose?
I think they're gonna lose. When I first came in looking at the rosters and stuff, week 1, I don't know anyone on the Iron team. I still don't know anyone on the Iron team. But they're beating teams that I thought would be good and be like near the top of the division. So I think because of that, I would put them beating Lotus. I think I had them 2-0 in my predictions.
that's
But
But Lotus is losing to like decent teams, pretty good teams. But like the Iron team is also beating teams that, in my opinion, are of roughly the same caliber. So
That makes perfect sense. And then you also run into that thing where everybody kind of has that. My brain just melted. You always run into those teams of random people that you've never seen before that are all really good, and you kind of wonder where the heck did these people come from. So,
yeah. I mean, you just find a league you want to play competitively. Here you are, right?
Our next series is Blue Pearl Spire versus Clown Gaming Forklift Certified. Both of these teams are undefeated at the top of Piltover. and that both have, from the looks of it, dropped 1 game. There are no teams that have dropped 0 games in Emerald.
Yep. I have Clown going 2-1 on this one. Clown running 2-1. I honestly kind of just flipped the coin. I know like 1 or 2 people on each of these teams. I know they're pretty solid, and they both are doing well so far against decent, like okay teams. So I think this one can go either way. But my prediction was Clown 2-1.
I
Okay.
also have Clown 2-1. I believe like 3 or 4 people on Clown Gaming. I've talked to them before. VC, whatever, played against them. Some of them seem to be impressive players, but you have Vaunted as bottom 2 jungle in the league. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of a little bit sus. But I still have them going 2-1. And I think Clown Gaming's just top 2 in their division, and losing this wouldn't be that too terrible, even if they do. So
That makes perfect sense to me. Next, we've got DZG Arcadia and the Shadow Cows.
seeing DZG Arcadia perform or underperform is swaying the predictions a little bit. Shadow Cows probably goes 2-1 on this. DZG Arcadia has gone to a game 3 every time, so it's not out of the question they can win. It's just, can they put it together and win, or will they lose another 3-game series? Right.
Losing a bunch of 2-1s is always the worst, because then you start to doubt yourself, especially if they're all close,
Especially if you win the first game, you're like, we know we can beat these guys, and then you just go out and lose. It just feels terrible.
The worst, though, is when you only win game 2s and you start to question whether or not the other team is taking them seriously at all.
I had Shadow Cows 2-1 in my original predictions, but I think I'm gonna swap that to Arcadia 2-1.
Is this for a deeper reason than just disagreeing with Chris?
Yes, I had a reason about 15 seconds ago, and I've completely blanked on it. But I definitely had one, and if you give me like 10 seconds, I might think of it again.
Okay.
Let's see. What was my reason? I had one. Yeah, I don't remember, but I think DZG 2-1 was my prediction. I had a good reason, so I'm sticking with it.
Okay. You're fine. I'm amused, and that's half the fun. So the last team that we have here in Piltover is Omega Gaming Soda Shakers and Bloom Abyss. And there seems to be a dramatic difference here in the standings, where Omega Gaming has lost everything. They have not won a single game, and they're the only team in the league to have not even taken a map.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 2-0 Bloom. Sorry.
Yeah,
but
it is like they may be an Omega team, my org, but I can't really not predict 2-0 Bloom here. I feel like, especially since Bloom is my goat Jacob on the team.
I mean, also, you're entering, what was it, 2 or 3 goals into a Emerald League?
Yeah.
And you're trying to win. It's not really good. So, I mean, unless it's just a group of friends just having fun, I mean, it doesn't really matter.
If you're gonna do that, that's the way that you need to do it.
Yeah.
Like, I have.
But if you're a serious team and you want to play an Emerald and you bring, 2 to 3 gold 3s, like I said, you're just not gonna win anything. Macro's different, micro's different, everything's different. Even champ pools are different. Like, you can get away with a lot of shit in gold that you can't get away with in Emerald. So
talking with some people who a guy, he used to be a GM Zoe player, and he talked about how it often would take him a long time to climb up through the ranks on Smurfs, because what would happen is that like Plat players would dodge differently than Emerald players, and Emerald players dodge things differently than like Diamond players. Like, just people play the game differently at every bracket.
yeah, because he's in the mindset of, oh, my opponent's gonna know that I'm gonna throw this here, so I'm just gonna throw this
Yep.
over here, and he's gonna walk into it. But when they don't dodge it, it's like, am I dumb, or are these guys just like better than me?
Well, and it's also too, you're used to dodging against other Emerald players, right? Who are doing things in a particular manner. So it's
Yeah.
it is like that kind of thing where you can call it a culture of games and the way that games work at each bracket. And if you're a gold player, you're just not exposed to that, what Emerald is going to be. Even if they were quote unquote, we can compete with Emerald players in lane. Those kinds of things. I'm sorry, I don't have a very high opinion on people that are taking that seriously. But if you're gonna play up ranks, you need to be doing it with the attitude of fun. And I think I've made a couple enemies on the Omega team at this point. So moving on to Zon. That rhymed, and I didn't even intend that to happen.
Group of Death time.
Mint OTS versus Horizon Gaming.
Horizon game. So who did Horizon get O2'd by? Dorado? Probably Dorado. Right?
I will find out.
I'll just pull up. I have the schedule pulled up. Hold on. They played Cooper. That was a 2-1. And they played
Mint Spark is who they lost to.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So what was the matchup? OTS against Horizon? I think Horizon won that one.
I also think Horizon wins. I think it's a close series. I think it's a 2-1.
I think I had 2-0. Yeah, I had 2-0. So I've gone against Mint OTS in BOL now, and I've also scrimmed against them 1 or 2 times. And I haven't really been impressed. Like, they did take a game against us. They did take a game off of us in BOL. But we were also playing with a sub jungler that we got like 2 hours before the match. And like no experience playing with. However, Horizon knocked me and Chris out of playoffs and semifinals last season and have a few of the same players, so I definitely have much higher hopes for them.
My team lost to Mint OTS, which sucks. But we had a sub ADC. And their ADC is their captain, and we lost that voice on the field, so it's kind of like you're just losing someone important. I mean, I don't take that loss like I don't know, not seriously, but it's like I just don't think we should have lost if we had captain there. So I think Mint is a good team, but I just think Horizon's a better team, and I think Horizon just 2-1.
Makes sense to me. Our next game is Paradox versus Mint Spark.
I think Mint Spark 2-0.
Well, I also have that.
Just looking at the schedule and the standings, I think that's reasonable. Paradox has taken games off of other teams, but not closed out a series.
Yeah, they took 1 game off of...
It's still better than Omega.
It is better than Omega, but it's not enough to justify not letting Mint have a 2-0.
To be fair, though, the 1 game they did take was on Dorado.
That is true. That is very true.
I still have Mint Spark 2-0, but I did want to point that out.
I have Mint Spark winning 2-0 here.
Yeah, I think like Mint Spark 2-0ing Horizon alone gives me like enough confidence to say we'll probably 2-0 Paradox.
That makes sense to me.
Also, strength of schedule, Dorado has only played bottom 2 teams. So, it's kind of like...
That's always the fun thing about doing this kind of stuff in week 2. It's like there's the sweet spot of like weeks 4 and 5 where like people are figured out and we have like distinct tiers, but nothing is set in stone yet because like by week 8 it's like and so wins again and so loses again. And my favorite part is where we're at now, where we have no fucking idea and we're making shit up.
It's like Dorado's been impressive. Yeah, I didn't think that they would be that impressive coming into the series. They're 2-0. They have a 4-1 record, but they've beaten the bottom 2 teams and haven't taken on the top 6 at all. So it's going to be interesting to see what they can do.
And we have quite a few more weeks to find out. Next is your team, Chris. We've got Conduit GG and Final Boss Esports.
I'm gonna be a cocky prick. 2-0.
2-0?
2-0.
2-0.
I had Final Boss 2-1 just to instigate, but I think it'll actually be Conduit 2-1. I think Final Boss could actually take it though. We played against them last week, and they did perform better than I thought they would. Like I think
I'm only saying
actually
2-0 to be a
pretty smart
cocky prick, but it's the GG special to go 3 games, so I'm gonna say 2-1 us.
team. Yeah, I think they're actually a pretty solid team and can definitely take games off Conduit.
All of this makes perfect sense. And then lastly, we have Dorado Gaming Kappa and Omega Wooper.
I had the same thing. I had Omega Wooper losing just to instigate. But I think Omega wins 2-1 if I'm not being an asshole. Sorry for my language, but I just think based on strength of schedule and based on how both teams have played, I just think Wooper wins. But I have yet to see the results, so we'll see.
I think we've won every series 2-1 so far, and we'll continue to do that. We'll never 2-0, but we won't lose.
2-1s are still wins.
This is
It's a
true.
nice thing about BOL though is that those 2-1s matter a little more than than some other leagues. Since
Right.
Yeah.
game score is a higher priority than head to head.
Right.
I play in LXC, and they have you play a 3-block every Wednesday. And it doesn't go by record, it just goes by game total won and lost.
Interesting.
It's a little weird, but that's not what
Didn't
BOL
BOL
is.
at one point do just best of ones, like 3 best of ones, and that was played?
Yes, they did.
Early
They
games?
did. They did 3 best of ones a week, and you'd have to play a separate team each time.
That was back when I was still just an IBS player over in ZGG.
Rest in peace.
Oh, and I have to add about our series.
Yes.
Another reason I don't think my ADC will let us lose because he has massive ego ADC brain and needs to be number 1 stat leader, and he's number 2 right now, and the enemy jungler is number 1. So I don't know if they can overcome ADC ego.
ADC
It is-
ego can be real.
ADC ego is a real thing. Shout out Shifty. But I mean, I guess they have a reason.
So I have a question, and we're going to do this a little differently than I have in the other leagues. So I have, if we have to pick one team from Piltover and one team from Zon, and it cannot be your own, to end up in the finals.
Mm-hmm.
Who are those teams?
I mean, from Zon, given that I can't pick my own, it'd probably have to be Dorado. I think us and Dorado are kind of just at the top.
You're at the top in week 2. Nice one.
I mean, I think we will be by the end too. Is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a completely reasonable statement. So
That is reasonable.
Who from Piltover does Dorado play in the finals?
It's hard. I'm gonna. I don't really know many of the teams, honestly. I think I'd go based on results and who they've played. I think I'd go with the Iron team.
Okay.
You know, I was gonna say the Iron team's a wild card, but now I can't copy you.
Oh, you can.
I can, but for content, no.
Content
just for the sake of being funny, I'm gonna say Mint Spark go to the finals.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm. And then I'm gonna let's do Blue Pearl Spire. Why not?
Okay. Gentlemen, is there any thoughts, any surprises, anything that has happened in Emerald that you want to talk about? Any people you want to shout out or talk down to? Now is the time.
I mean,
Shout out or talk down to.
talking down to people is isn't really the best thing to do. So
Yeah,
maybe I
unless they're
won't.
Chris, then it's okay.
Unless it's Ishan or any of his teammates, then
Oh, any of my teammates too now.
any of your teammates.
I wasn't gonna say your teammates.
Except your support. I don't know your support.
Just keep
I know-
escalating by
I
the
know all of
minute
your
here.
teammates. You don't know my teammates. You can't talk down to my
I
teammates.
kind of know your mid laner.
You played with him one game and he filled top.
I sure
lane.
did.
He played one series and he filled top.
Played Ornn, and he was great at it.
He's the Ornn god. I can't lie.
What was that,
What?
Jordan?
Hashtag free. Shout out to Ren. Someone get him a team. That guy does
Hashtag-
not deserve to be off a team. I don't know what you did to Horizon, Ren. It must have been awful. And if you didn't do anything, then what are you thinking, Horizon?
Hashtag shout out my boy Doki. Get him on band. Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
No, don't do that either. But free Ren. Get him a team.
I don't know who Ren is, but shout out Ren. I'm
Hey,
with
Ren,
you.
you could be a sub on Whooper if you want to.
No, come to GG, please. We need more.
Gentlemen, please say your goodbyes. This has been a wonderful time. I have greatly enjoyed Emerald here with everybody.
I'd like
Goodbye.
to say shout out my boy CZ. Kiss a homie goodnight. I'll catch y'all later.
Thank you for having me.
And we will be back in a few moments with BOL Plat. Welcome back, everyone. I know it is the thing that you all have been waiting for. By far the most drama-filled and hateful league in existence, BOL Plat. We have quite a few people with us this time around. Why don't you all introduce yourselves?
All right, let's
All
not
right.
all rush at once.
Hi, I'm Finny. I'm from Magni Kai. I play ADC.
Hi, Finny.
I'm Stealth. I am the ADC and captain for Nameless Gnomes.
Hi, Stealth.
Hi,
yeah.
Stealth.
I'm Chong, BOL winner last year, and SG Proton support this split.
That's exciting. Hi, Chong. So, we have, in BOL Plat, we have 10 teams. Right now, we have our standings up on the screen. Any surprises? Anybody that's doing really well that you didn't think was going to do well? Anybody doing really bad that you thought was going to not do great? I don't know where I was going with this. I lost my train of thought mid-sentence.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised Conduit Esports is in 8th. I thought they'd be at least mid-table, but
Yeah, I
going out
agree.
with O2.
Conduit E-meta 02 is kind of crazy.
Same thing with SG Proton. I thought
That's the one
'cause-
that threw me.
Yeah, because we scrimmed them and they're a really, 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 really strong team. But then again, we had some changes since then. But it's surprising to see them 1-1 instead of 2-0.
So, speaking of these things, so we sent out a form earlier this week. 18 of you in BOL Plat responded. Hopefully next week when you can get that amount up. One of the questions in the form we asked was who wins the entire split? With 22.2% of the vote, who do you think is going to win the split?
I'm pretty sure people voted Dynasty
Yeah,
or
probably.
Gremlins.
Nah,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I saw this, and I'm pretty sure it was Proton voted up there, and then like 2 and 3 was tied with both Conduit teams, or like both Conduit teams were like ranked below Agni Kai. I think Agni Kai was second.
Agni Kai and both Conduit teams are tied for second. But
Okay, that's what it was.
between the
crazy.
3 of y'all, that makes up 15 of the 18 responses. I'm sorry, 13, because I totally can math.
That's crazy.
Still, 13, only 5 people answered beyond that, and at least some other, and those were for 5 other teams. So basically, somebody from GSG, Nameless, First Class, BDE, and AIE responded. It's always interesting, these things at the beginning of the split, where it's more of a popularity contest, and people are voting primarily for themselves. And as time goes on, I want to see if things change and if a clear favorite starts to emerge, or if people just keep voting for themselves out of that irrational belief that they're somehow going to make a difference. So, with that, let's see here. Yeah, Conduit UMAD definitely has popped up in these predictions as a team that was going to be successful. Interesting for all the hype around SG Proton. Agni Kai only had 4 predictions that they were going to win against SG Proton versus the 14 for SG Proton. So really big upset last week there. And I know 2 of you played in that series, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Me and Chong.
What any thoughts on that? Like just the fact that the seeming on paper favorite lost.
You could go first, Fiddy. I'll follow up.
I mean, I think people are just underrating Agni Kai. Like, Atomy and Stocks are both pretty good. And then we have Glizzler, who's pretty strong jungler. And then me and Funny Dude, who just, try to do whatever. But, I mean, it was a pretty fun match. Game 1, we got shit stomped. Game 2, I mean, they say it was pretty close, but I feel like we were in control the whole time. And Game 3, we just stomped.
Oh, you have a Tommy on your team, Fiddy? I didn't look at the roster sheets.
Yeah, that's Walk Warlock.
Yeah, he was only accused of being a Smurf forever in gold.
Yeah.
Only
Who
forever.
knows?
Who
Who
knows?
knows?
Sean, your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, I love my teammates, but I shouldn't listen to them as much in draft because I listened way too much of that game 3 draft, and it was fucking dog shit.
Yeah,
Like
you guys
that game 3
egoed
draft
so
was
hard.
so bad. The game 3 draft was so bad. I said we should get taken out back and shot for that draft, like old Yeller style, because it was just the worst.
Oh man.
I mean,
Oh,
it's hard
man.
to play your like normal bot style when the enemy AD carry has to play 2 games of Seraphine to win. I love you, Fitty.
Yo, listen, that's copium, bro. I just played it because you guys didn't ban it, bro. No way you guys ego like that.
No, straight up, we could have won game 2, but we just played really fucking poorly in the early game, not playing like how we should have. And then game 3 was just like the worst fucking draft I ever put down on paper.
Now I have to look at this draft.
Oh, it's bad. They picked Seraphine, and then we
Oh.
immediately picked Varus Ashe, and then Lilia. It
that-
was terrible.
That's yeah. There was some cooking done here. I can see the somehow how this flows, but yeah.
It's
It
okay.
happened.
It's okay. I have to cope with the Seraphine angles, but Agni Kai thought they could ego and beat my Bard, and they learned fast.
Yeah, the Bard was pretty scary, to be honest.
The 90% win rate Bard thought you could
Listen,
ego.
I didn't. Okay. I asked if anybody wanted to ban it. No one replied to me, so I said, okay, I'll just ban the other champion. And then my man's out here looking like Prime Core JJ all over the map doing random stuff. He's 1v1ing me.
Yeah, dude, I
Mid-game.
1v1
I'm like,
your whole
what?
team. I 1v1 your whole team. I think I did more damage than like almost your whole team that game.
That's
My
funny.
man's out here looking like Prime Kobe.
So that was, at least as far as the community went, that was the only prediction. Well, the only upset. No, let me rephrase that. Dynasty beating Conduit was the other one. So there's been more upsets, at least as far as the community has talked about in Plat, compared to some of the other leagues. Let's move on to our predictions. Yay, predictions! I know you'll have all of these prepared.
Oh yeah, I looked before to make sure I was ready.
It's good. It's a bit more prepared than I was. I didn't get home till about 6:40 to start the show. So, okay, now I have a question. Is it Conduit UMAD or Conduit Kecklers? Because I got both. from two
It
different
can no
documents.
longer. So what I heard is BOL told them they couldn't be Conduit UMAD because of their abbreviation, so they had to change to Kecklers.
I understand. Okay.
Yeah,
In two different places on the website, like
yes,
Yeah.
the tag is calm, and I'm pretty sure Billy and Bully said no, you can't be calm, so they became Kecklers.
okay, so BOL needs to get their website straight because we've got both. We're gonna just call them UMAD today, and if we need to be informed that we are calling them the wrong thing, we'll find out next week. Tune in Friday for Otter Talk. So we have First Class versus Conduit UMAD. Mr. Stealth, who wins this game?
So, as from someone who has played First Class last week, freaking banger of a match. But also, we just did get a new addition to the roster in the jungle. Honestly, I'm gonna say First Class. As
First
long as they
Class.
keep that same mid laner and put him on the roster, because that mid laner's pretty freaking good. That played against us.
You're
Okay.
talking about Swedish pancake.
I'm gonna say 2-1.
2-1.
First Class. Yeah, First Class.
Okay. And Sean and Finney, your thoughts on this matchup?
I said Kecklers 2-0.
Kecklers
Kecklers
two-
can't go 0-3. No
I mean,
shot.
they're already 0-2, so they're only one series away from being 0-3.
If they go 0-3, then their path to the playoffs is pretty hard.
Because only top 6 make it, right?
I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
I'm not
If
sure
it's
how.
anything, if it's anything like Gold, because Gold is also a 10-team league, only the top 6 are going to advance.
Yeah, no, it's definitely top 6. Make it.
because we're going to be right up on split the Riot split transition too. So yeah.
Yeah, I think
go on.
I think Cum should 2-0 against first class. I like this isn't from the first class, but like I don't know any of the names on the roster, so like they're the least one of the least impressive teams to me in the league. But like Conduit has so many known names, it's just like they're not clicking early in the season. Like I know this team like came together like super last minute, from what I understand, because I was trying to poach an Asian to be my jungler, and that got dono walled by OTF. But I think Kecklers is like way better on paper than they're showing in matches. They just have to get it to click, and they should be able to just easily get playoffs from here.
That makes sense. Now I will say that we had we were talking with the Emerald guys right before this, and the Iron team is a team that is like is seemingly competing with the top teams that nobody had ever heard of. So like, not necessarily to count first class out just yet. But I completely understand the desire to go with the names that you know and the people that you know. Next series. Oh, Finny, this should be exciting. Agni Kai 2-0, right?
No, it's going to be Agni Kai 2-1.
2-1. So
we're going to lose the
Celestial.
first game and then reverse sweep again.
Got it. I mean, some teams are like that. So Dynasty Celestials versus Agni Kai is our next series. Any other thoughts you have, Finny, outside of the reverse sweep?
I actually don't know too much about this Dynasty team. I just know that people hit them up a lot.
Okay.
Not too sure.
That's fair.
Oh, it has Batman and Feathers. Who the frick are they?
Who are they? Indeed. Chung, any thoughts on Dynasty and Agni Kai?
Yeah, I think Dynasty's gonna win 2-1, honestly. Even like after just playing against Agni Kai. Feathers is the GOAT, took over captainship of my other Dynasty team when I ranked out. Batman is super chill, but I think the mid laner on Dynasty is like one of the better players in the league, Nightmare. This dude is a jungle main now, and it's just like popping off on mid lane, and their bot lane is super solid and super consistent. That like Agni Kai is gonna have to play Seraphine again against them. And if Dynasty just bans Seraphine, it's a win.
I completely agree with the Feathers as the GOAT take. Legitimately one of the best people on the entire scene. Like,
I love playing with Feathers.
Working on ZGG with Feathers are some of my best memories in the comp scene. I love Feathers to death. Interesting thing about the role swap though, like sometimes they do really work out for like a split, you know what I mean, where like they swap immediately to take a slot on a team, and something about that situation just makes them play out of their fucking mind. I know it happened to me when I swapped from jungle to support at one point. So it definitely can be a move that works from time to time. Usually not in that way though. Stealth, do you have anything to add on this one?
No, I mean, I agree with good old Chong, dude. Okay. I believe this Dynasty team is really freaking strong. Sadly, they did beat us week 1, but I'm just gonna say support diff, because that's support that I had through my lane.
That's crazy.
But yeah, no, they're a very strong team though.
I just have to ban. I'm just gonna ban Sejuani. Been Alawi, easy.
That's the same thing we did.
Dude,
I'm gonna beat the Seraphine allegations.
By banning somebody else's one trick. Nah, I think if you want to talk about like a super last minute put together team, you look at this Dynasty team. They were put together day of, like the draw show for Plat League.
I think from what Feathers told me, it was the day that
this team was like
the last minute, we need one more team ad, like that's that team.
Mm-hmm.
No, literally Dynasty was like 5 players who aren't playing on teams. I mean, Feathers is playing on like 7, but like everybody else who's playing on like one team just came together to form this team, and it's kind of crazy.
Feathers,
very strong roster.
Light split for Feathers is 3 teams.
I think he's on like 6 right now. I know he's playing in Risen Draft League, like literally right now.
It would not surprise me. The man is insane.
Me and Feathers were all on like 5 different teams for Roarlat, or like a few years ago.
Yeah. You're playing here this week. Okay, Doki.
Yeah, for real. Doki's like, hey, bro, I need you right now. Take some TP.
Anyway, so our next series, Conduit Gremlins versus Nameless Gnomes. This is something that chat seems to want us to talk about. A lot of Conduit fans in the chat right now. Delth, I'm putting you out here first since you played in this one, right?
Yes, I do. Oh man. So I will admit that it will be a hard game, but with the new addition of my jungler and how my team knows how they want to play now, and then my top laner is just a fucking monster. I feel like honestly it will come down to top lane this game because I know that they have a really good top laner as well. So, I don't know, man. I mean, part of me wants to say that we win. You know what? Yeah, no, I'm gonna say 2-1 us. Honestly,
2-1 Nameless Gnomes. Okay.
if we could just get our stuff together, we should be chilling.
Makes sense to me. Fiddy, your thoughts on this one?
I'm also hoping Nameless Gnomes takes down Conduit, so that way when we win, we're lone first place. But I'm done smoking the copium oxygen tank, so I think Conduit wins 2-1.
Okay. And Chung, any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, Conduit 2-0. Like,
Conduit 2-0.
yeah. I mean, I know 3 out of the 5 players on the Conduit team. I know nothing about the top laner in the jungle, but just looking at match history and just like solo queue, these dudes are terrifying. Like, I know 0 things about them, and they're probably like the 2 best players on that roster.
I will take your word for it. I'm very unprepared, so I can't agree or disagree.
I honestly, I put Conduit Gremlins wins all of BOL, even over my own team. I think that's how good that team is.
I mean, on paper, right? Like looking at just because I pulled it up out of curiosity, like that is one of the higher ranked rosters for sure out of the entire league. Multiple emeralds on the team at this point already. Yeah. And our next one, SG Proton versus Big Duck Entourage. Finny, you go first.
I think SG Proton bounces back into his BDE.
Okay.
I'm not too sure about the BDE team, but I think Proton will do good with their new jungler.
Sean, you're playing in this one.
I'm gonna vote us 2-1. I'm never gonna vote for myself 2-0. I'm a king of throw-in. You can ask anybody who was on my team last year. I like to just make stuff way more difficult than it should be. But I don't know.
If you don't do that though.
Exactly. You gotta have some fun every once in a while. But I don't know. I think we're a very strong team. We just make really dumb decisions a lot of time, and it costs us games. Like we should have beaten Agni, but didn't happen. We misplayed. We lost. Nah, dude, I'm being honest. We misplayed so bad that second game, and we lost because of it.
No.
But yeah, I think we win this week. We bounce back. We get working with our new jungle and everything, and then just take the league from there.
Stealth, what you get to break the tie here, I guess.
Well, no, I want SG to win. I'm actually having SG. I'm gonna say, because I don't really know anyone on BDE other than I think Swag, I believe.
He might be subbing, but he's playing in gold.
Is he a sub?
He's playing in gold. He's on the gold team.
Okay, but I'm gonna say SG 2-0.
I think that's a reasonable statement, especially how things went last week. And lastly, we have AIE Anguish versus Goon Squad Gaming. I'm an unabashed, completely biased GSG fan.
if GSG doesn't 2-0, they have to look at themselves in the mirror.
Yeah, facts. GSG should 2-0.
Yeah.
I think AIE might actually be the worst team.
I mean, no flame. AIE plays in Risen, Rampage, and they didn't win a single game.
Jeez.
Oof.
So you think they're just for funning, or?
I think they're a team playing up. I haven't really looked at the roster. I don't know how long any of these players have been in plat, but I think because of the new rank and how easy it was to gain LP at the start of the season, a lot of them hit plat, so they have to play up when they're not ready for it. So I think
there are legitimately teams in the Gold League that are like higher averaged ranked than AIE. Like,
so
I'm not trying to say that flame.
I think this team should just take anything that happens to them with a grain of salt and just learn from it and just become better players. But
in their defense though, they're not playing up. Almost all of them were plat in 13-2.
Okay. I haven't really, that's the one roster I really haven't looked at all.
I get it. And I think GSG is looking very, very strong this season. More so than some of the splits where they've kind of been phoning it in. You know what I mean?
I think people are sleeping on this GSG team. I don't think they're top of the pack, but I think they're definitely in that 5th, 6th, 4th spot. But they're definitely gonna upset a lot of people. Because I scrimmed against them and that team's pretty good.
I am an irrational GSG fan. You will never hear me talk a bad word about them. Decker, in particular, is one of my best friends in the scene. So,
yeah, no, Decker's super solid.
I love those guys. So we've got one more big question here for the three of y'all. Right now, week 2, going into week 3, knowing what you know right this moment, who is going to win the split? But you cannot pick your own team. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
Honestly, I'm gonna say Dynasty.
Okay. Any other reason? Any reason why? Is it just the names on the roster, or is it just how you felt when you played against them?
Honestly, it was how I felt when I played against them. They're a really strong team. I know their ADC is really good. And even looking at the previous games that he has played, he seems to be one of the key reasons why they win. So I mean, if they just honestly play around him even more so with the new patch coming out soon, which is going to be super ADC centric. I don't know, man. But yeah, no, I feel like they're going to win the whole thing.
Okay. Vinny, your thoughts?
Conduit Gremlins. That's the Emerald team, right?
I wouldn't say that it's an Emerald team. It's a Plat team, right? It's just they've played solo queue and they've ranked up to Emerald. You know what I mean? It's within the rules. I'm not trying to say that good, bad, or ill. You know, if you want to call them an Emerald team, sure, but they are 100% a Plat team.
Wait, are they all Emerald?
No, they have 2 Emerald players.
Oh.
I mean, so does SG Proton, but nobody calls us an Emerald team.
The narrative is narrative, right?
Technically, they have 3.
One of them is a sub.
No. So,
am I looking?
Hanoi was Emerald last season.
Oh,
Why you have to say it
so
like that?
They're the cap
I don't know,
exception.
bro. I don't know how to say that name. Just reminded me of SpongeBob, bro.
So you're complaining about the cap exception that is currently Gold 1.
I'm joking.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Moving on, Chong, who do you think wins the split that is not SG Proton?
I mean, I already said before. I said Conda Gremlins before. I'm gonna say them again. I think on paper they're just one of the more consistent rosters in the league, and just are able to play the game very well at a macro level for this elo.
I think that's completely reasonable. We'll check in and see if this trend of Conduit Gremlins winning it all continues in future weeks of Otter Talk. We are about to head out. Any final words from any of you? Any things you want to say? Any shout-outs you want to make? Any flame you want to put out there?
Yes, welcome Soul to Agni Kai. My man's got kicked off of SG Proton, and we snatched his ass right up.
You heard it here, folks. Making moves, making deals. You can have it all if you too join Agni Kai.
Facts, we got boats and hoes.
Jeez.
Come join us. We play for pink slips.
Anything else from y'all, gentlemen?
Yeah, I want to say something. I'm looking forward to our date, Dark.
Okay.
Hey, yo.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, yo, fuck SPK. Anyway, with that...
True!
Wait.
True!
That is a
didn't say
throwback right there.
I
And
didn't
with
say it. I
that,
didn't say it.
I said it. So BOL could get mad at me. And with that, we're going to say goodbye to BOL Plat. Please fill out the prediction form that is going to be coming out sometime tomorrow. Check the ping in official content. Fill that out so that next week we don't have to just deal with 18 people voting for themselves. And with that, we will see you back in a few minutes for gold. back with the segment that is going to be the most watched and the most irrelevant. BOL Gold!
Oh my god.
We are here with Minami.
Hello. Hello, I'm Minami. I've been in the scene for quite a bit, hopped around in several different orgs, and been a relatively now ADC player for a while. Jumped around a bit in the beginning, but...
I also have over here Wingman.
Hello, I'm Wing. I help run the Revolution org. I'm currently coaching Rev Regalia and also subbing for them when necessary, but hopefully I'll rank out this split. So
let's go. Hope's alive. Hope's alive.
I made it to plat. Just gotta get up to plat 3.
This show, we have our lovely producer and oppressor of Smolder everywhere, Dory K.
Yo, what's up? I'm not even gonna flame Smolder that bad. We already did it before the start, but I'm
literally had a 5-minute discussion.
I'm a free agent coach. I'm just saying, I won the last 2 splits of BOL IBS. Might be worth having.
Dory K is one of the people with, at least as far as gold goes, a consistent track record of producing top tier teams.
Currently sending Dory $50 in PayPal.
Smolder.
Alrighty, so we have, because people have not updated the BOL website, partly because Gold just finished yesterday.
Yes.
We are looking here at the standings. This is week 1 where every series was a 2-0. Right now we have 4 teams at 2-0. Hyperion, BDE, Typhoon, Rev Eternal, and Mystic Cats Gold are all 2-0. Mystic Cats remains to be the only team in this section that has dropped games. The other 3 have all been 2-0s. In the middle section, we have BDE Corruption and Rev Regalia at 1-1. And we have in our bottom section, Conduit Prime, Flannel Ethereal, Flannel Zephyr, and Nameless Rising, all at 0-2.
What can I say? Mr. Cat's got hands.
Mr. Cat's
Absolutely.
got hands.
I think the question we have to ask right now is: are there any distinct surprises? Are there any questions or things that we didn't expect before the split started?
I would definitely say the Mystic Cats roster pulling through. I didn't expect them to be as strong as they were. Typhoon and Hyperion. I thought Hyperion would be a middle of the pack team, but when I started to take a deeper look at who they had on the roster, I had quite a feeling that they were going to be pretty good. And after week 1, I would definitely say they are a very, very strong team.
I think go on, Wing.
I'm not too surprised how much so far. It's only week 2, so there's not a whole lot to be surprised or not by. But yeah. I expected BDE Corruption to be one of the top teams, just based on when we scrimmed them in the preseason, and then we ended up 2-0ing them in the regular season. But they stomped pretty hard this last week, so I think they may end up just fine in the end.
Yeah, I mean, that goes into like week 3. I think, after the 2 weeks, I think a lot of teams are going to be like very introspective of how they're playing, and a lot of the bottom teams I think we're going to see improve more and more. Hopefully.
Without a doubt, and we're seeing that some of these series are getting closer and closer together. So, I have a question for all of you.
Absolutely.
So I might have an answer.
We sent out a prediction form earlier this week. One of the questions in here was who wins the entire split. Now, this was sent out before games, so this is post week 1, before week 2 was played. Do you have any guesses out of 24 responses who the team that wins the entire split is?
This was the closest one.
Are we guessing our personal guesses, or are we guessing?
What
is this Family Feud style?
This is what did the community? Yeah.
Okay. I'm pretty sure I know this answer. It's pretty sure community said BDE Typhoon, right?
That is correct. Do you know number 2?
Rev Eternal, I would probably say.
No.
No.
Really?
No.
Must be Hyperion then.
That is correct. So
After week 1, that would make sense. Yep.
Yeah. So after week 1, it was BDE Typhoon and then Hyperion. We're going to be doing these every week, so we're going to be sending the form out again tomorrow. Please fill it out so that we don't only have 24 people out of the league responding.
60? Like 60?
60 plus, not included.
50 starters plus subs and staff.
Yeah, exactly. So, with all of that being said, let's get into some predictions of our own. Starting off with Rev Eternal versus Hyperion Esports. I, of course, am biased as a person on Rev Eternal.
Yeah, all you guys are playing. In my opinion, I think Rev Eternal has the best idea of who they are as a team, and that is don't play the game for 15 minutes and then win.
Sit back, sip some tea.
Leopard, you've already played Anivia. It's 2 weeks. You've already played Anivia.
They let it through. What am I supposed to do? I'm not.
Don't let them Anivia.
Yeah, I mean, you've got Anivia Smolder. You guys don't have to play the game for 15-20 minutes and then you just win. And I, memes aside, I love you, Indigo, but I think your team's a little bit of frauds. I do not think Hyperion is that good of a team. I think they will start to drop games very, very fast. It's a lot of
Jory,
lack of consistency. Their draft doesn't really make a lot of sense half the time. The champions don't work together, and I just see a lot.
I think this will be the real showing. Yeah. I think this is going to be the real showing of whether the drafts and the players can step up.
And we'll find out because this is the streamed game this week.
Yeah, and to be honest, if you're looking at like the post-game screenshots, like Ziggy and Dion are both incredibly good. They're a very strong mid-jungle duo, and the games are basically won off of the back of that. Whereas the side lanes are basically irrelevant in these games so far. So I think if the jungle don't just run away with the games get very hard for Hyperion, which I don't think they can do against Eternal as consistently. Because of the aforementioned Anivia player in the call.
Hi.
He's also a Syndra and Aurelion Soul player because Anivia wasn't enough of a sit there and scale.
Of a scaler. Yeah. So he decides to pick every other scaler.
The reason Anivia gets let through because it's the least scaling of those.
And then you got to realize that he's got Vigar in his back pocket. That just,
also scaling.
Yeah. and then there's the when I decide to put Kennen into Aurelion Soul because I'm a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on. I also, I mean, I'm biased. I think Eternal versus Hyperion is going to be a Eternal 2-0.
I guess what do you guys
think, I'm also siding with that because I don't. In order to beat Eternal, you have to both crush them in lane and be able to macro with them late. And just from what I've heard, I don't know if Hyperion is quite at that level.
And someone just absolutely pointed out new Smolder. We were talking about Smolder in the new patch. His stacks actually go up to 275 for the execute.
Did they change that? I thought it was they just dropped the execute.
It's going to be no. They dropped the threshold, but they increased the stack count to 275 from 225.
They're working on giving
that will slow down Billy, the ADC for Eternal bit because Smolder has been such a foundational pick of theirs. But I think he's just a good enough player. He'll be fine whether it's on Smolder or another pick. He may not be doing it on Smolder anymore, but he can do it on Vayne or whatever else you give him.
Absolutely. I think it's going to be a close 2-1. I think Hyperion does have the ability to take games off. Against Eternal, it could be a 2-0, but I think it's going to be a close 2-1.
I think it's 2-0, but both games are close. But Eternal is solidly in control of close games. I think it'll be one of those games where it's very, very, very close until they just out macro at the end or get the one team fight they need at the end, and then they win the games off of that.
Is the patch this Wednesday or next Wednesday?
Will be next Wednesday. So
you guys get
these games will be played on the next patch. So this would
upcoming
the last
upcoming
week
Wednesday.
Of Smolder, if you think about it like that.
This is the last week of him being oppressive.
Yeah. Let's move on to our next series: BDE Corruption versus Flannel Zephyr.
This one is the one I've got my eye on the most, because Corruption, I think, is a team that showed both a low floor and a high ceiling the last few weeks, whereas Zephyr has shown, actually, even though they're 0-2, they've had
amazing
leads at times, and it feels like one of those teams that if they're close to getting it, and if they get it, look out. But I don't know if they've gotten it yet, and I haven't been able to watch their VODs. I'm working mostly on stats and rumors here, and by rumors I mean general chat. But that seems to be the general take of them, is they do have that capacity to go up very well early, and at least when our team played Corruption, Corruption's a team where their biggest strengths are leveraging a lead to set up for objectives, and if you get a lead against them and are able to push it, then they really struggled into that. So I think it really just comes down to what Zephyr's practices and VOD reviews are looking like this week, I think.
Yeah, and I do have a little insight into the Flannel thing. They are reviewing these games very much so, and are changing things around. Yeah, no kidding. Talking to their coach.
I mean, no flame. Everyone should be reviewing your games. That's that's not targeted at them.
No, absolutely. I think this is going to be a very close series, where it could go either way. I think if Zephyr keeps their momentum into the mid-late game, it could be an easy 2-0. But I think there's still Corruption is a very strong team, so I think it's going to be a very close series.
I don't think so. I think this is going to be a handily Zephyr 2-0.
I'm definitely going with Corruption 2-1, because I think just looking at their drafts last week, they have they're starting to actually play real AP mid lane.
Yep. We can talk about the biggest point of Pandorum playing anything under the sun mid.
General Chat has had that discussion in detail, so we don't need to recap all of it, but I think just the team comps in general are looking a lot stronger now with him actually playing mages.
I just worry with Corruption that if they're not snowballing and stomping, that they just kind of are non-existent. So if we contrast the way that they were against Regalia in week 1, where it was a lot of they were just kind of in Summoner's Rift, versus week 2 where they were absolute monsters, it makes me wonder how they're going to do against the leads that Zephyr is going to be able to create, which is the reason that I'm going 2-0 over Zephyr.
I kind of share that sentiment. I share that sentiment just because I think that a lot of their mid support combinations seem disjointed. It seems like Havoc and Pando aren't super comfortable playing together because plays aren't being made as a team. They're kind of being made as individuals, and they snowballed because, I mean, sorry, Nameless, 2 splits in a row, you guys just aren't looking amazing in this division. And they didn't really get to show much because the games were over before they could even be competitive. So I just think that their plays are still a little too disjointed. At the same time, I think Tyler might be in Elo hell.
He's a very hot cold player. I will say that, seeing him last split and seeing him play mid this split too. When he's playing hot, he's playing hot. When he's playing cold, he's playing real fucking cold.
Yeah, it feels like Tyler has probably the most weight on his shoulders on the team. And I think that they could do with maybe drafting a little bit more early game power to get themselves rolling. Specifically, the mid jungle duo of Ari Jarvan worked really well until it stopped working. And honestly, just we're drafting Jinx in 2024. What's Regdor supposed to do here? Kevin's running it down, and then doesn't matter, he's still gonna blow you up at 30. So.
Yeah, he's still going to blow you up. Yeah. He's still going to get on top of you and destroy you in 2 seconds if you don't have... I mean, Jinx Renata is not my favorite combination.
Yeah, I think Flannel has a very good chance to take it 2-1. But I also would not be surprised if it went the other way.
I would not be surprised for a moment if Corruption wins this. Like, it would not be surprising. I think
this is the most flip-floppy probably series we'll have, where it could literally go either way. It just depends on the night.
I don't agree with that. I think there's another series that is even more.
No.
Yeah. So our next game is Rev Regalia versus Nameless Rising. This is a very easy Regalia 2-0.
I
in my opinion.
think so. I also agree. Regalia 2-0.
Because this is public and I don't like showing ego, I'm going to pick Nameless 2-0 officially on paper to fire up my team and get them motivated to make sure we're not playing with ego.
You're right. You're right. Totally right.
I think Nameless is going to absolutely stomp us. We're gonna come out and they're going to kick our ass. So
I will say, in the defense of Nameless, compared to a lot of the other teams that we'll call have been the bottom of the barrel in the other leagues, in Plat and Emerald, and been the bottom in leagues past, there isn't like a significant like overall rank gap between them and the rest of the league. Like, in terms of actual like rank, I believe they're like comparable to like they're still on the lower side, but they definitely have their players, right? But like, it's not like where last split, right, where Ape showed up with 4 bronze players.
Yeah,
that was
I
rough.
agree. Yeah, that was rough to watch.
Ape is not known for putting out strong, well-organized teams.
No.
No.
But and Nameless, unfortunately, like, has that reputation, right? Like, this is an org that, for whatever reason, has that reputation, and I hope they do well, right? Like, I don't.
I hope they're getting the support they have to like really get the VOD reviews, and like they have the players that can actually put these on paper and take these series.
Ghost Fingers in particular is a player that I know puts in the work. So
absolutely, I can bash him as well. Really great high character guy.
Yeah.
It does seem like they suffer from like coordination issues, though. It just like seems like they give up plays to just random stuff. It's almost like they have a lot of players that seem new. You said Ghost Fingers is somebody who's been around for a while. Is that?
I wouldn't say that they've been around for a while. They played for me last split before. Like, they ended up leaving the team of their own choice before the last split started. So I've coached them and worked with them myself.
Yeah.
They ended up moving with some other coaches they knew to Ferox. Yeah, Ferox Wolves, which ended up being a middle of the road team.
Yeah, and Beta, I've also seen that name. I've also seen that name in splits past, who's had a pretty good reputation.
From what I've seen, from coaching against them last season with Beta on the last season's team, I think that a lot of their issues really do come down to them just like showing up to play, and not really. I mean, I totally respect any team that shows up to Gold just to play. I don't expect you guys to put in a ton of work to be at the same level as like the Diamond and the Masters division. But at the very least, like, make it very apparent that you're just coming to play around to screw around. I don't really see Nameless players talk much in the chats, so like, I don't blame them for just wanting to show up and play. But if they do want coaching help, hi.
Dory K.
Almost to 6th, I swear.
Almost to 6th.
So
that's a Dory K guaranteed right there.
So we have our next series, which to me has the team that is the biggest question mark, which is BDE Typhoon against Flanders.
Typhoon against me.
Yeah.
Versus who are they playing? You said Ethereal?
Ethereal,
Ethereal.
Flannel Ethereal versus BDE Typhoon. And I'm not trying to take away from BDE Typhoon. This is not that.
No, this is a good roster.
Fantastic player. Like
Rocky.
Rocky is
so great.
Is one of, like, legitimately has played on with some of the greatest teams in IBS/Gold of all time.
Coach Jesus Choose.
Giraffe Rider came in super hyped here. It's just unfortunate that the teams that Typhoon have played would be considered on the weaker end of teams.
Yeah, and those games have gone on to 35-plus minute games.
Exactly. So it's even though the Typhoon has been winning 2-0, there is a question of how good is Typhoon really?
Yes. And hopefully, and actually not hopefully, we're going to show them how bad they are.
Okay.
Really.
Oh, I
no.
would say my biggest question mark about Typhoon isn't how good they are right now, because I think just looking at
I think they are
the roster, they will just
general.
out talent the vast majority of people out there, and these are, I know, at least Rocky and Bean, these are players that have played with a lot of really good teams, so I would suspect, plus they're playing for a well-established org that has to put out solid teams, so all evidence I have points to them being as good as the hype indicates. My only question is whether Giraffe Rider will rank out, because he is at a 65% win rate, Platinum 3, after only 26 games.
Oh yeah,
he's gonna need another. He's gonna need another 34 ranked games to qualify for playoffs. I think at least. And right now he's basically abstaining from solo queue altogether, but he's not gonna be able to do that forever once win rate contracts and the 10 and 21 and the playoffs come up. I don't know how he stays under.
The other thing that I will say, as someone who has gone through that of playing on alt accounts and so on, you can really damage yourself and lose a lot of skill and give yourself some really bad habits by trying to do that.
Mm.
The long term.
Sticking to one account, sticking to your.
Yep, 100%. I did it to myself last year when I ranked out last spring. I played on an alt to learn Aurelion Soul, and I have spent longer trying to go back to that peak than I spent at that peak. And it's not through lack of trying.
And we missed you last split.
I wasn't eligible.
Giraffe Rider.
He was around. He was coaching. He was coaching me.
Yeah. He was coaching. But
look
it's
at
weird having
not
having Leper in there.
I'm looking at this right now. His most recent ranked game had an average elo of Plat 1, so his MMR is even higher than Plat 3. This is a guy that's looking at this resume. I think this is a guy that's I'm just hoping he ranks up before I have to play him, and then we can see him in the Plat League next split, because he just looks so dang good on paper, at least.
Well, I'm gonna go with, as much as I say this, Typhoon 2-0 is my prediction.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going with Ethereal 2-1. So
I'm going with Typhoon. Even if Typhoon isn't as good as the hype, Ethereal is 0-2 so far. So I don't think they have to be necessarily first in the league.
That's fair.
Here.
I'm gonna say Typhoon.
That's
2-1.
fair.
I think
we'll take the.
I think Kevin's gonna listen to the voices in his head and run it down one game.
I will admit, I don't know any of these players on the Ethereal roster besides Mina, so I just don't know a whole lot of what to expect from them. But they have not doing so far.
Their top laner forgot to buy boots one game last night.
Oh, don't worry! Oh my God, we flamed them enough for that. Literally, one of the players' dads DM'd them mid game. Was like, "Why didn't you buy boots?"
That's
so looking at match history. They also suffered the I think shortest series defeat so far in week 1. Hyperion blew them out very quickly.
Yeah.
Hyperion's
one of the biggest
team, so it's expected. Right?
Yeah, it's a very good snowball team.
If we say Typhoon is at a similar or better level to Hyperion, that does.
Yeah, or my jungler not flashing in the turret level 1 or level 3, that'd be great.
I think that
that's generally not
mid
recommended.
laners to Leo looked solid, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good. It's a team that's built off of the 4. Without me, has played together for a long time. This is kind of their first. This is kind of their first foray into competitive, other than Prisma, as far as I know, and Velzies. But this is a core 4 that has played together a lot and plays together a lot, and is friends. So like very good communication between each other. It's just one of those things of, you know, how do we push leads? How do we take the most off of this? You know, and then that's improving, and that's improving each either way. We have really good coaching and really good.
That's good. That's a good sign then.
Yeah,
I'm gonna throw Zakes under the bus here. Somebody bug Zakes and tell him to fix the multi for Flannel Ethereal so nobody gets confused when your coach is listed on your multi being an Emerald 2 player.
Yeah, Quintic is on there.
Oh, why is Quintic on there?
Oh, he's listed under captain, I think.
I'm honestly surprised that you haven't tried to force the Zeri more minute with how much Smolder's being played.
Yeah, a little bit. We had to talk about that last night too.
Yeah, like there's a lot of options. I mean, I feel like Twitch is like criminally underused in this elo. Twitch is just like elo potion for this division.
God,
I tried
it's like the one character.
I tried to coach Excel on it so much last season. It just doesn't process in his head how to do it. But the champion's like pure
it's like
elo
the
potion.
it's like the one character that like I know is good, but I'm like I feel disgusting to play. You know,
I mean that is kind of part of
it's just fucking rat. It's just a rat.
It's being disgusting.
Yeah. I guess that's the point of playing. Like, I just have to not take a bath for like an entire week, and I'm just like, okay, I can play, you know, Twitch now.
Yeah.
So
it's almost like to really get into the minds of the champions, and he's just not. He's just not a fun mind to be in.
Yeah, it's just like it's not like those characters like kind of like Neela, where it's like it's not like the standard ADC playstyle, you know.
Yeah.
And in a comp setting, it's like a different like way of thinking.
I thought we were talking about aesthetics for a second. I'm like, you back off my totally not Katara. That's
yeah.
I have
no
clue how to
I love
play her.
Neela. Oh, Neela's great. I love Neela.
Yeah.
I got her in ARAM for the first time ever, like last week, and I just had no idea what on earth I was doing. I basically just tried to play like Diana, and it kind of
you put a Neela and you slap a Yumi on me, and I'm happy for days.
Yo, low key, put Madness on Nyla top 1 game. You guys got that.
Oh,
coming from
unironically,
coming from a Wild Rift player where her passive doesn't exist.
Yeah, true.
But no. Honestly, I think like the division in general could do with some draft diversity. I know you guys are probably just like mimicking what's good, listening to your coaches, but having a little bit of draft diversity and playing things that are more down your comfort zone. It seems like a lot of players are suffering from like playing what they think they're supposed to play and not what they're good at.
It's like the thing with Varus. With me, with Varus,
do not get
like,
started on this.
Varus is good. Varus is good, but I just don't click with the character.
Yeah.
The more I play it, the more I stick with it.
You tend to
play
play hyperscaly, like skirt around a team fight type champions. Champions.
That's
a lot of innate
that's what I enjoy.
Varus ain't that. So.
And more often, like that's what I'm saying. Like every. And this is how good the coaching is, because they'll sit back and like after every game we'll go, okay, what felt good in this series, what felt bad, and like I told them, I was like, I just don't the Varus, like the way we're playing around the Varus, and like especially in that third game where I'm just like I once we get behind, like I just don't know what to do, like
press R, big braid
without like a front line in front of me, like a solid front line. You know?
Yeah, oftentimes with champions like Varus, it's just, I'm not going to go too deep into it, but it's about just like, at that point, build tanky, your blight stacks blow up shit anyways, and then just like hit R. Like,
yeah.
A live AD carry doing damage is, or less damage is better than a AD carry was supposed to have done more.
Yeah, no kidding. And that's why I like my slippery AD carries.
Let's move on to our final series. Which to me, this is the closest series of the week. Mystic Cat's Gold versus Conduit Prime. I think Conduit has run into some hard opponents for them the past 2 weeks. They ran into Eternal and they ran into Hyperion, which I think in the minds of a lot of people are 2 of the top 3 teams. I think that's fair to say.
Fair to say.
I think other people might say that these are the top 2 teams, at least at this point in time. You can look at it a couple different ways, but it's hard to say that Conduit did not get 2 of their toughest opponents back to back.
True, and we'll have to see how that relies in the mental too.
Absolutely.
I'm predicting a 2-0 for Mystic Cats. I think Mystic Cats got hands.
I think Mystic
I
Cats.
am also. I think they just
team.
have a lot stronger individual players right now. Looking at rank, and also just what I know about different players in the past. I don't think these games make it to late game. I think Mystic Cats is just going to hard outlane them.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
Offense to Kobe and Co. You guys really are just like swinging above your weight class by a lot.
And Klug should be one of the best mids in the entire league.
I think it depends on who Mystic Cat shows up to. You know what I mean? Like if they show up Klug top and literally Nate in the mid lane, that's a very different roster than Klug mid.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a very different roster, and I do not mean to take away from Mystic Cats for that. I think that Mystic Cats has been struggling in the early game though. That has been a consistent theme across the past 2 weeks. They are the only team right now to have gone 3 games, or consistently. You know what I mean? Like they're of the 2-0 teams. They have the ones that have gone the multiple games. I think this is going to go 2-1 Conduit personally.
Okay.
I think Conduit has a lot of things there that they just haven't been able to show against some of these teams that have not only had higher skill individuals, but also like better macro movements, like Eternal. I won't talk about myself. And Hyperion that snowballs incredibly well. Both things are really going to be difficult for a team like Conduit to overcome. Where I think that Mystic Cats doesn't have those things and is a team much closer to Conduit's level.
I think ultimately, my eyes, this series comes down to that Mystic Cats has Klugscheißer and Conduit doesn't. So
I think that's also a fair statement.
I feel like
I think he's going to be the best. I think he's going to be the best player on that Rift by a pretty solid margin. And
by a solid margin. I think so too.
Yeah, Klug's really good. I think Physiology kind of flies under the radar from watching the series on the production side last night. I think Physiology's positioning in lane is really solid. I think he pays attention to the map and follows up on ganks really well. I think Physiology has potential to kind of like fly under the radar because he's a good role player and doesn't stand out like Klug does. But
yeah, he doesn't stand out. He's just a solid laner.
Yeah,
I can't say that.
And I mean, he's definitely, just talking of flying under the radar, he's one of the ones that is quote unquote ranked out. He's hit that platform arc.
Yeah.
Oh. So he's
that's higher ranked than the majority of ADCs in the league.
I think that in the past, like when it was IBS, it was like, yeah, it's IBS, and then you have the obvious, like the Chachas and the Zaxes who like are definitely ranking out.
The Chachas.
Yeah. Chachas and the Zaxes. The ones that are ranking out 1,000,000,000%. In this division, it seems like there's an even more like immediately noticeable line between like people who aren't going to rank out but are definitely the higher elo bracket of the division, and then people who are like, bro, you're still bronze and silver in the gold division after the rank adjustment. Like,
a lot
maybe
of it
work
is...
on solo queue a little more than
hey now.
If you think what they did with the rank changes, it's like what gold is now is what silver 1 and silver 2 and a little bit of gold 4 used to be.
Yeah.
It's just you're starting to see a much more like, I guess, distinct line between those players, to the point that like Klug is solo killing people that are on paper pretty damn close to him in elo, and he's just straight up outlaning them, like,
and just straight up
outlaning
them. Yeah.
Like, he has no business doing that if you're following the ranks on paper, but yeah. So I think that a lot of the early season
but what we all learned by following ranks on paper.
Yeah, I think I think a lot of the early season comes down to like who's just getting out-handsed in lane, and luckily Mystic Cats got hands.
I totally agree. I mean, I think over the season it's going to become a lot closer.
And I definitely think that it's going to be a thing for some teams that where, at least through my ears and my radar, I'm already hearing about cracks in teams. So it's going to be a thing of what teams are going to be able to pull it together, what teams are going to be able to grow, and what
to adjust.
are going to be able to continue from where they are, what teams are going to get complacent. It's something that like can happen with teams that are very, very dominant, is that you just get complacent and then they lose, and then they don't have the tools to handle the loss, so they start to crumble. I've seen it more than once, you know.
Oh yeah.
So this brings us to our final question, because we're a little bit over our time, because the four of us like to talk, and we could probably go for the entire
You could probably go
duration of
another
the show,
hour just talking.
just the four of us on gold. So our question is, Dory, you don't have the qualifier. The rest of us do. What team wins the entire split? Me, Min, and Wingman cannot pick our own teams.
Damn it. So I'm going to go ahead and kick this off and say that both Eternal and Regalia count as my teams because I'm running all of Rev esports side. So with that caveat, I think Typhoon is the clear remaining contender. They've got the best players on paper. They've got really solid wins so far. And I've just yet to hear of them being challenged, either on stage or in Scrumbucks. So that's my pretty clear pick right now.
And I'm going to go the opposite because you are on Rev. I'm going to go Eternal. I think you just have a very solid, just a very solid team from everything I've been hearing and everything I've seen in scrims. Just look like the clear outstander. I think there still are those question marks on Typhoon, and I don't see them on Eternal.
Yeah, I guess there is the question mark of what happens mid lane if Giraffe Rider does rank out at some point in the next month or so.
Yes.
They'll kick a lot of butt until then. But
kick a lot of butt until then, but we have to think about playoffs and through there. And I think...
But I think the rest of the roster is very solid as well. So even if they replace him with someone who's just quote unquote only a very, very good player, they'll still.
But can that mid laner still work with the jungler and?
Yeah, you just never know how it's going chemistry wise.
Yeah.
At least on
but I don't
paper,
see any of that
in
on
the,
Eternal.
In the sub slots from some of the other teams, there's some very solid mid laners just sitting around. I'm gonna go with Rev Regalia. Just from scrims and everything, Regalia to me might be struggling a little bit right now, but they are by far the team that has grown the most. They're also the team that we've scrimmed the most, but they're also the team that gives Eternal the most challenge by far out of all the teams that we have played. There can be a lot of reasons for that, but that's my pick.
All right.
So to speak a little bit on the subject of Regalia, I think we are the handsiest team in the league. I'll put that out there to be a little bold because I jokingly flamed them earlier. It's just a matter of how much can we learn about coordination and macro, and we really have made huge strides since we had a scrim before the season started. We scrimmed Corruption. Corruption absolutely kicked our ass macro wise, and that really kicked our improvement into high gear, highlighting what we needed to work on, and I think we made pretty huge strides on that. So,
yeah, and you guys are going to get way better at that macro stuff when you sign your new coach.
we already have a coach. You're talking to him?
Oh my god!
Player coach over here.
You're trying to take my job.
Dory's dropping his PayPal in the chat right now.
But I know I just got done flaming them and calling them frauds at the start of this, but I actually think that the second Home Dog Giraffe Rider ranks out, nobody's going to be able to stop Dion Atlas. And I think Ziggy and Dion are probably the best mid-jungle duo in the league, and I think that's all you need to win, especially in this division. Playmaking mid-jungle just kind of shits on everybody. And I think as long as Toddy can keep Indigo from listening to the voices in his head, he's going to be fine.
That's fair.
So yeah, I low-key think that the team that's the biggest frauds often just win the league, because in this division it's much harder to punish teams that are just like super aggressive. So I think
that are constantly making those plays.
Yeah, I think the teams
Wouldn't
that
that
look
make
the
them
most
not
consistent.
frauds?
Yeah, they are frauds because they can shoot themselves in the foot often. but they end up winning because nobody can punish them for being frauds. If that makes any sense.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point.
I see where you're going. I see where you're going.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, consistency, like, it's easier to look consistent when you play nothing but scaling, you play nothing but team fights, you play nothing but R comps and gold. It's like the old TD classic, is just press R comps and eventually play the game. But, like, teams like Hyperion that can utilize champions with early game agency can stop those champions from being allowed to scale. It puts a lot of pressure on these players who might not be able to handle playing from behind, and I think it gives them a massive advantage for the entire league. So, yes, Hyperion, you're goddamn frauds, but you're probably going to win the league, and I'm going to be really salty about it.
Well, you'll see that with your own 2 eyes, won't you, next week, right?
Yeah.
I think it'll be a good early showing for what we can expect. I expect to see whichever team loses make massive strides for the rest of the season. I honestly think the loser of the series is more likely to win the league than the winner.
More likely to win the league. Yeah, I would agree.
We've all seen that play out. Yep.
We've seen that
No
play
one's
out
going to
many
doubt you
times.
there.
So, with all of that being said, we are going to head off here. Please fill out the form when it releases tomorrow. Tune in next week for Otter Talk on Friday, and see you all then.
See you all.
See you all around. Thanks for tuning in.